And a good Tuesday morning to you. Welcome into the Nick Craig Show, streaming live this morning on YouTube, Rumble, X, and Facebook. You can take the show with you 24/7 on demand by checking out the Nick Craig Show in your favorite podcast app. You can also listen online by visiting the website nickcraig.com. Our show this morning is brought to you in part by the Law Group. Melissa Gott and her amazing team. Visit them online at lawgroupnc.com or give them a call, 910-251-6088. We'll hear more from them coming up a little bit later on in the program this morning. So we've got a couple of interesting things on the docket today. We'll start off with an interesting decision from a left-wing judge, no surprise there, and then go back to not the government shutdown, but the crux of the government shutdown as it related to why the Democrats shut down the government, and some interesting new reporting that is coming out from a couple of media outlets, including what is now MS Now, formerly MSNBC, and Politico, as it relates to healthcare. We'll get into those details as we progress through the show this morning. But our top story this morning, a Clinton-appointed judge has dismissed the United States Justice Department's indictment of former FBI Director James Comey. That happened yesterday, ruling that the interim U.S. attorney in Lindsay Halligan's appointment to the Eastern District of Virginia violated federal code, as the Trump administration is set to appeal the ruling. So let's make sure we understand what's going on here. The case was dismissed by this Clinton-appointed judge, not because of the merits of the case, not because former FBI Director James Comey is squeaky clean, but because they are arguing that the president's appointment of a judge violated federal code and was not relevant. And, this is something that I believe that the Republicans need to begin doing a better job of. And, I struggle with this because I don't want the judiciary politicized. I don't. I genuinely do not. I think it is it's not only a very bad thing, it sets a very dangerous precedent. But there comes a time where you're playing checkers and the other side is playing chess. And that is seemingly how this works as it relates to lawsuits and the way that the judicial system currently operates, not just federal judges, but, or not just, federal high-level judges, but district court judges. This is just a very concerning thing for folks on the right to deal with. We see this time and time again, regardless. And we've talked about this now in a variety of different stories for months. What is one of the big things that we have seen since the beginning of the Trump administration? We have seen time and time again, regardless of what the president is doing, liberal activist groups and liberal judges stymie the work of the executive branch. I mean, we've seen it consistently, all the time, from literally the day, January the 20th of this year, when President Donald Trump was sworn in as the 47th president of the United States. This guy, anything and everything that he does, you immediately have the ACLU or the NAACP, all of these other left-wing, any other of these left-wing activist groups immediately file some sort of lawsuit against the administration, file a suit, get it in front of a friendly district court judge somewhere in Washington State or out in California, and what do those judges do? Temporary stay, temporary injunction, hold on, slam on the brakes here. Nothing is going to continue. We're going to have to stop all of this. One of the phrases that you've heard me use for some period of time, if you've been a long-time follower of me, is Sue till blue. Sue till blue. I know that's not proper grammar or proper English, but that's what the Democrats do. They lost in November of last year. And because they currently have no power seemingly at all in the federal government, they don't control the executive branch, they don't control the House, they don't control the Senate, they are using the judicial system. They are using the legal system as their political power. They are using that as their political will to get anything done. Republicans do something that they don't like, regardless of whether it's legal or not. what is the immediate solution? Not fight back against it, not say that we've got better ideas, not say that we've got a better solution to said problem, but we're going to take you to court. We're going to get in front of a friendly judge, and we're going to take what should be a relatively simple thing, and we'll draw it out over the span of 3, 5, 7, 10, 12 months, maybe even years. And the Democrats are very, very efficient and very, very effective at this. And you've got to give credit where credit is due. They have mastered the art of weaponizing the judicial system when they don't have the levers and power of government. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. So U.S. District Judge Cameron McGowan Curry dismissed the suit against James Comey, which accused him of making false statements and obstructing justice in a 29-page ruling. And it reads, Mr. Comey now moves to dismiss the indictment on the grounds that Miss Halligan, who is the judge appointed by Trump, the sole prosecutor who presented the case to the grand jury, was unlawfully appointed in violation of 18 U.S.C. 546 and the Constitution's appointment clause. As explained below, I agree with Mr. Comey that the Attorney General's attempt to install Ms. Halligan as interim U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia was invalid, and because Ms. Halligan had no lawful authority to present the indictment, I will grant Mr. Comey's motion and dismiss the indictment without prejudice. Former Justice Department Chief of Staff Chad Mazzell said that the ruling was incorrect for many reasons, including the dismissal of the indictments is the wrong remedy. According to the former Justice Department Chief of Staff, he says wrong for many reasons, including that the dismissal of these indictments is the wrong remedy. Both indictments were ratified by senior DOJ leadership, including the Attorney General, saying, quote, this may delay justice, but it won't stop it. An appeal is coming. Comey and James are not off the hook. So you've got, again, this procedural attempt to say, oh, well, the appointment to the interim judge in the Eastern District of Virginia is not relevant. Therefore, the indictment is not relevant, is not, you presumably could not have served the indictment if you were not appropriately in that position as acting as the acting attorney from the Eastern District of Virginia. Therefore, we're going to dismiss this without prejudice. And we're just going to, I guess, pretend that none of it happened. So you've got the judge here who sided with Comey's defense attorneys who argued per the ruling that the code limits the total tenure of the Attorney General's interim appointments to 120 days, therefore precludes an additional appointment by the Attorney General after the expiration of that 120-day period. While subsection A of the code grants the Attorney General the authority to appoint an interim attorney for 120 days, Curry finds that the code is unambiguous, and subsection D provides judges in the district the authority to appoint a new interim U.S. attorney to head up the district. The order of the appointment of the subsection D reads as follows. If an appointment expires under subsection C2, the district court for such district may appoint a U.S. attorney to serve until the vacancy is filled. The order of the appointment by the court shall be filled with the clerk of the court. And so the following subsection of this seemingly indicates that in this position, this would be able to go through. This acting U.S. attorney would be able to be in her position. However, that is presumably not what James Comey and the Democrat judge feel. The Associated Press reported prosecutors had contended that the law does not explicitly prevent successive appointments of interim U.S. attorneys by the Justice Department, and that even if Halligan's appointment is deemed invalid, the proper fix is not the dismissal of the indictment. So the argument is, well, then somebody else should have been appointed after that 120-day period. Now, the Justice Department, or the prosecutors in this case, would argue that Okay, if you want to argue that merit, that's a completely separate thing, but you shouldn't and really don't have the ability or the authority to just throw out the entire case, which is exactly what has happened here. And that's, of course, for many of us, for you, for me, very frustrating to watch, because once again, we are not seeing a situation, a legal challenge come to fruition. We are seeing that in this case, the case is being thrown out over what is deemed to be a technicality. That's what this is looking like. This is how this is kind of playing out in real time. Not, again, merits of the case be damned, merits of the case be irrelevant. It is the technicality that this appointment either shouldn't have happened or couldn't have happened as to why the case was dismissed. So, of course, James Comey, the scumbag that he is, he took a victory lap on social media yesterday. This is what happened. This is what Comey posted.
I'm grateful that the court ended the case against me, which was a prosecution based on malevolence and incompetence, and a reflection of what the Department of Justice has become under Donald Trump, which is heartbreaking. But I was also inspired by the example of the career people who refused to be part of this travesty. It cost some of them their jobs, which is painful, but it preserved their integrity, which is beyond price.
Oh, yes. Yeah, hold on a second here. We're going to hear from former FBI Director James Comey about integrity. It's like hearing from a pathological liar about the importance of truth and honesty. James Comey, of all people, is going to sit upon his ivory tower and proliferate the importance of integrity amongst the American people. I don't know that you could find many other individuals that have been in government, high positions of government, like James Comey was, former head of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I don't know that you can find other individuals that have been in high levels of office like Comey that have any less integrity than he does. I mean, Comey in this case is setting a very high bar for the level of actions and the way in which he handled himself at the FBI. So now, ladies and gentlemen, I'll stop. I won't cut the clip off anymore. I'll try not to. Let's listen to the importance and how absolutely important it is to have integrity from the former head of the weaponized Federal Bureau of Investigations, James Comey. Let's take a listen.
Who refused to be part of this travesty. It cost some of them their jobs, which is painful, but it preserved their integrity, which is beyond price. And I know they will serve again. I was very lucky that some of the best lawyers in America stepped forward to represent me. I hope they serve as an example to more and more lawyers, especially at some of the big firms, to participate in protecting our liberty, protecting the rule of law. And my family and friends were always with me, and luckily for me, include some of those great lawyers. This case mattered to me personally, obviously, but it matters most because a message has to be sent that the President of the United States cannot use the Department of Justice to target his political enemies. I don't care what your politics are, you have to see that as fundamentally un-American and a threat to the rule of law that keeps all of us free. I know that Donald Trump will probably come after me again, and my attitude is going to be the same. I'm innocent, I am not afraid, and I believe in an independent federal judiciary, the gift from our founders that protects us from a would-be tyrant.
You've got to be freaking kidding me. I mean, him talking about integrity is bad enough. Him having the balls. And James Comey is a complete and total scumbag. Literally, arguably one of the worst individuals in politics. No morals, no character, nothing. I mean, he is the absolute bottom of the freaking barrel. And so now, not only is he going to preach to you about the importance of integrity, he is going to talk about how Donald Trump is weaponizing the federal government, weaponizing the Department of Justice against his political enemies. I mean, folks, there is this idea that I've had for quite some time that we are like essentially living in some sort of alternate reality with these people, where the world that you and I see, the world that you and I participate in every single day, these individuals are living close to it, but there's something off about it. It's an alternate reality that they are living in every single day. We have just watched over the last couple of years the federal government arrest former Trump officials, raiding their homes in the middle of the night, arresting them, shackling them in airports, stealing their phones, their electronic devices, wiretapping them. In the case of former President Trump, raiding his private property in Mar-a-Lago, Florida. And now, James Comey, who was behind most, if not all of those things, is going to talk about the importance of an independent judiciary. He is going to talk about the importance of an independent Department of Justice, an independent FBI, and the importance of that, and how we have to fight for that, how it's so important that we hold up these standards, that it's so important that evil, terrible, awful Donald Trump doesn't destroy the country as it exists right now, because he's going to, right? We've been hearing this now for the better part of a decade. We know that this is one of the major, if not the only, talking points that the Democrats have. There are individuals that are not capable of speaking about an issue because they themselves are responsible for the thing that they say they're so afraid of. I can say to you in all clarity and honesty this morning, James Comey fits that bill incredibly well. I actually agree with the point that James Comey makes, that we don't want the Department of Justice or any facet of the federal government to be weaponized against political opposition. I agree with his statement. Unfortunately, James Comey is part of the reason why we are having that discussion this morning and have had that discussion now for the last couple of years. It's because of people like James Comey that Americans are finding themselves ever more frustrated and concerned about what they see out of places like, the FBI, which he used to be the head of. I mean, it's insane that he would make those comments. He is at this point, I might argue, a pathological liar. I mean, he's just a very odd guy. And that is blatantly obvious in the way in which he has acted over the last couple of months. I mean, he's just acting in a very bizarre and odd way. And so the conversation here moving forward is one that is not even intellectually accurate. Comey puts out that video like the court said, these claims that you've brought against James Comey are BS. These cases that these allegations that you have brought against Comey have no merit. That is not at all what the judge ruled. That is not at all what the judge in this case said. They are arguing a technicality over the appointment to the wait, let me make sure I get the exact name of the or the exact position in the court. The U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. That is the technicality that they are arguing over. They are making this at least in this 29-page ruling, make no determination over whether the allegations brought against James Comey and Letitia James have merit at all. Yet Comey is literally taking a victory lap on social media as if a judge came out and said, all of these claims are baseless. There's nothing to back any of this up. And James Comey never did anything wrong. you can go look at the 29-page order yourself. None of that is in there. You won't read that. You can't even read between the lines and find that. This is a technicality that they are arguing, which the Trump administration says they are going to appeal. Here is Attorney General Pam Bondi. She was in Memphis yesterday hosting a different event and was asked about this. The news broke while right before this press conference took place. And, of course, the media there asked her about it. Here's Pam Bondi.
If I could just get your reaction to the James Comey, Letitia James cases being dropped today. Back in Washington, James Comey put out a video. He said this matters most because a message has to be sent. The President of the United States cannot use the Department of Justice to target his political enemies. Your reaction to the cases being dropped into that specific message?
Sure, we'll be taking all available legal action, including an immediate appeal, to hold Letitia James and James Comey accountable for their unlawful conduct.
What is your reaction to his statement?
I'm going to keep going on this. I'm not worried about someone who has been charged with a very serious crime. His alleged actions were a betrayal of public trust.
And so I think that's a pretty strong reaction there from Pam Bondi. I mean, she's not going to get into the weeds with Comey on it. There's no reason to. I mean, the guy is, as being posted in our Rumble chat this morning, Comey is a world-class liar. And so with that being, when you know that, I mean, there's no benefit of Pam Bondi getting into the mud on this with Comey. It just doesn't make any sense at all. Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, was on Fox News yesterday afternoon again after this story had already broke. This is what she had to say.
What I will say is that everybody knows that James Comey lied to Congress. It's as clear as day. And this judge took an unprecedented action to throw these cases out to shield James Comey and Letitia James from accountability based on a technical ruling. And the administration disagrees with that technical ruling. We believe the attorney in this case, Lindsay Halligan, is not only extremely qualified for this position, but she was in fact legally appointed. And I know the Department of Justice will be appealing this in very short order. So maybe James Comey should pump the brakes on his victory lap.
And hopefully that's exactly what we end up seeing, that this is appealed, that the code, the United States statute that relates to appointing judges in the interim has not changed under this administration at all. And so it's not like anything dramatically has changed. So according to the judge in this case, there's so much ambiguity in this statute that I guess this needs to be dealt with, because this is presumably will not be the only time that something like this comes forward. So this is, I guess, a larger issue that needs to be dealt with in a pretty short-term order. So we'll have to wait and watch and kind of see what happens with all this. So as anticipated, the lying scumbag James Comey takes a victory lap after a judge throws out a case on a technicality. We'll see what the appeal looks like, and we'll continue to follow the coverage and information as we get it right here on the Nick Craig Show. We're going to transition into healthcare coming up here in just a couple of minutes. But before that, I do want to thank Melissa Gott and her team over at the Law Group for their continued support, and let you know that when legal challenges arise, make sure you put your trust in the Law Group in Wilmington. Since 2003, their experienced attorneys have provided high-quality, affordable legal services across the eastern half of our state. Whether you're facing a divorce, navigating real estate transactions, or maybe you're in a position where you need a strong defense, the Law Group has your back. Their dedicated team ensures that your issues are answered or your questions are answered and issues are resolved as promptly as possible. Great news, folks. They're located in downtown Wilmington and just a phone call away at 910-251-6088, or you can visit them online at lawgroupnc.com. That's 910-251-6088, or their website, lawgroupnc.com. The Law Group, experience and dedication you can rely on. We appreciate the Law Group and their continued support here of the Nick Craig Show. All right, well, there's some interesting reporting out of Politico, and MSNBC, or now MS Now is what the new name of that entity is called. As it relates to healthcare, this has been a major issue over the last couple of months. We'll get into those details coming up here in just a couple of minutes as the Nick Craig Show rolls on a Tuesday morning, streaming live on YouTube, Rumble, X, Facebook, and 24/7, wherever you get your podcasts. And a good Tuesday morning to you. Welcome back to the Nick Craig Show. Thanks for spending some time with us, either live or on demand. So if you'll remember back, there was this little thing just back a couple of weeks ago called the government shutdown. You may have heard about it. The government was shut down for 43 days, the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. And this was all over from the point of the Democrats who refused to pass a clean continuing resolution, which they had already done earlier this year. This was all due to the fact that there are Obamacare subsidies that are expiring at the end of this calendar year as we head into 2026. Now, we're not going to relitigate Obamacare this morning. We've talked a little bit about that over the last few weeks. Obamacare from the start has been, was always, and now we are seeing years down the road, a disaster. As people on the right warned this would be the case, lo and behold, the chickens have come home to roost, and it is a disaster. It is propped up by taxpayer subsidies at the federal level. That is how Obamacare works. The reason that people's health care is affordable under the ACA, the Affordable Care Act is what it's named, Obamacare. The reason that it is affordable is because taxpayers subsidize it. That is the Obamacare plan. That is what it has always been. And with those subsidies now set to expire, lo and behold, healthcare is now increasingly unaffordable. I mean, my health insurance heading into next year is literally doubling. And I'm getting my insurance through healthcare.gov, the open exchange, the open enrollment program. It's a disaster. Everybody warned, well, except for Democrats. Everybody else warned it was going to be a disaster. Lo and behold, here we are, late November 2025. So it's a mess. It's been a mess. And now that is the reason why, in large part, why the federal government was shut down. But I made this point a couple of weeks ago as it related to the shutdown, and I got some interesting feedback from individuals when I said, I think that this administration, unfortunately, needs to move forward and allow these subsidies to continue for at least the next year or two and come up with an alternative. And I got some interesting comments, a couple of emails and some posts on X saying, why are you in favor of continuing to prop up this system? Why are you in favor of continuing to subsidize healthcare? And it's not that I'm in favor of subsidizing healthcare, but ladies and gentlemen, if you've got individuals' health insurance, in some cases doubling or tripling, going up potentially thousands of dollars a month as we head into next year, that is a very, very bad situation for the Republicans. They didn't create Obamacare. They didn't create the ACA. That is exclusively something that the Democrats have to wear around their neck as a badge of honor. It's not our problem. We didn't create it. But unfortunately, we have to live under the reality of it right now. And I can promise you this. If individuals have to change their lifestyles dramatically to continue with their health insurance, or they have to roll the dice, which many are going to be doing, potentially myself included, next year, roll the dice on health insurance going forward, because it just doesn't make sense to spend $400, $500, $600 a month for a single person for health insurance when you're a healthy individual. If you're going to drop that coverage, roll the dice, or dramatically change your lifestyle to pay for health care, that is not going to be a good position for Donald Trump, for the Republicans heading into the midterm elections. From a purely political standpoint, that is a terrible idea. Healthcare is a driving budgetary factor for a lot of people. A lot. It has always been, and it will, unfortunately probably continue to be for some significant period of time. It is a major, major line item for most families' budgets each and every month. And so if those rates are going to double, in some cases, if not triple, with these expiring subsidies, regardless of whether the Democrats put it in place, regardless if the name of it is named Obamacare, it will be something that Donald Trump and the Republicans will have to own. And that's just how politics works. They're the party in charge. If your insurance skyrockets when Donald Trump is in the Oval Office, Republicans are in control of the House, and Republicans are in control of the Senate, you are going to logically point the finger at the individuals that are in charge. Now, do I believe that these subsidies need to be extended for the next 5 or 10 years? No, I don't. I don't think that makes a lick of sense at all. I don't think we need any sort of long-term extension whatsoever. But in the immediate short term, not only will it be beneficial politically for the administration, it will be beneficial for the economy of the United States. Unfortunately, and yes, I know, I'm not a fan of subsidies. I'm not sitting here this morning telling you that subsidies are a great idea. But it will be beneficial for the economy to pass these in the short term, unfortunately. And I say unfortunately, and I mean unfortunately, because it's a miserable situation, one that was completely avoidable and completely preventable. You go back and watch these debates going on. You heard those on the political right rallying against the ACA, rallying against Obamacare, warning of the exact situation that is unfolding right now. That once the prop up of Obamacare ends, once the federal government stops subsidizing the ACA program, it will fall apart. And that is exactly what we are looking at right now. So both MS Now, which used to be MSNBC, and Politico are reporting that a healthcare policy framework is set to be introduced soon by Trump's White House, which would include a 2-year extension of the expiring enhanced premium tax credits known as the EPTCs, or enhanced Obamacare subsidies, which otherwise would expected to expire at the end of the year. Now, a White House spokesperson obviously was reached out to by Politico and MSNBC and declined to comment on the details of the plan, telling Politico, quote, "Until President Trump makes an announcement himself, any reporting about the administration's healthcare position is mere speculation." However, Politico continues, saying that the plan would lower limits on income eligibility for credits and set minimum premium payments according to the reports. The proposed eligibility cap would set the subsidies at 700% of the federal poverty line. Republicans have complained that with current Obamacare enhanced subsidy schemes, wealthy Americans would benefit from subsidies in which were meant to be temporary COVID-era benefits that are also expiring as well. The White House plan would also urge Congress to fund cost-sharing reduction CSR plans, which Republicans pushed for in the One Big Beautiful Bill, but were nixed after Senate Democrats objected to its inclusion in that legislation, believing that it voided rules on budgetary reconciliation. The Congressional Budget Office, or the CBO, found that these healthcare reforms would have lowered healthcare premiums by 12.7% on average and reduce costs by decreasing the need for some of the Obamacare subsidies, those plans and some of those tax credits. The Trump proposal would also have part of their tax credits go straight to Americans via tax advantage savings accounts instead of going to health insurance companies to lower Americans' premiums indirectly. The White House Deputy Chief of Staff, James Blair, said last week, quote, "The president probably would like to go bigger than the Hill has an appetite for, so we'll see how that works out." So the White House says until the president announces something, everything is speculation. Politico reported that the proposal could be unveiled as early as Monday, which obviously was yesterday, and it didn't happen. And I pulled up I just got an email this morning about the president's, I get a daily email about press schedule and guidance from the White House. And looking at the president's schedule from today, he is set to pardon some turkeys ahead of Thanksgiving this afternoon, as is standard in the standard practice with the president of the United States. That's happening this afternoon. Then he's flying down to West Palm Beach tonight to head back to Mar-a-Lago. He is set to be there Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday before he heads back to the White House on Sunday, heading into early next week. So again, I don't have any refutable evidence to argue against this Politico report, but the idea that this is happening as early as this week, potentially as early as yesterday, just doesn't seem plausible with the schedule that the president has right now. He's not going to make an announcement on this the week of Thanksgiving anyway. I mean, it's a time in which people are checked out. But something does have to happen pretty quickly if these subsidies are going to be extended, because the open enrollment period, I believe, ends on December the 15th. So and by the way, Congress is not going to act on anything this quick in all likelihood. So the idea that this is going to happen, assuming that the president gets back to, the current schedule stands and he's set to make his way back to Washington, D.C. late Sunday night, Monday morning is December the 1st. So at that point in time, we are 15 days away from the open enrollment deadline. I think it's the 15th, maybe it's the 19th. It's sometime in mid-December. This is I believe, a major issue that this administration has to deal with. Again, I'm not, across the board, not a fan of subsidies. I'm not a fan of the federal government propping up the failing Obamacare ACA system. But I don't understand how these things can be allowed to expire under this administration. Donald Trump, whether you want to hear this or not, Donald Trump is already underwater on the economy. Americans do not feel the relief that the administration says that they should be feeling. They're just not. I mean, it's not, unfortunately, too indifferent from what we saw under the Biden administration. where you had Joe Biden and Janet Yellen and all these other folks out and about 24/7 saying the economy is strong, the economy is great, have no fear, everything is totally fine, everything's hunky-dory, no concerns, no issues. It was total BS. The American middle class was getting squeezed beyond belief. And that's exactly what you heard from the Biden administration. It wasn't true. And you're hearing some of the same concepts now from the Trump administration, not anywhere to the same level. The inflation has absolutely moderated. All right, it is not continuing to skyrocket like it was under the Biden administration. But Trump is not polling well on the economy. He's just not. And when you look at his approval rating, the reason that it is underwater, which by the way is, people like to say, oh, Donald Trump's approval rating is underwater. Yeah, that's almost always the case. I mean, you have a president that gets elected, their approval stays above water for the first couple of months, and then pretty quickly things flip over. That's how it is with Republicans. That's how it is with Democrats. It's unfortunately not something that is mutually exclusive to either political party. People are always frustrated with who is in charge. People are always of the mindset that the party that is in charge, and it's why midterm elections are so tough for the incumbent party, that something that they are doing is wrong. It could be done better. That's why they vote for the opposition. That's why midterms always favor the party that is in the minority. And I say always because it has always been that way. Always. There's no example that you can point to that the party in charge had a major landslide election victory in the midterms. It just doesn't happen. And so, maybe this year's the difference, but probably not. I mean, it's not the case. It never has been. It likely never will be. So Trump is underwater on the economy, whether you like it or not. And I mean, we covered last week or was it maybe 2 weeks ago, the new polling from CarolinaJournal.com that looked at a variety of issues across the state of North Carolina. You had about 600 individuals, or exactly 600 individuals, that were polled about polled about what's going on in the country, and they were asked this very simple question: how do you feel about the state of the U.S. economy? 58.3% said that they were not confident about the state of the U.S. economy. The highest plurality of individuals in this were not confident at all, with 37.9% saying they were not confident at all. Not very confident was 20%, somewhat confident was 30%, and only 9% of voters were very confident about the state of the U.S. economy. So you can argue these issues as much as you'd like, but this is the data, this is the evidence that backs this up. People are not happy with the economy right now. And I can promise you, I don't make many promises in politics, but I can promise you, if this healthcare issue is not dealt with in very quick order, these numbers will get significantly worse. Regardless of what the economy looks like, if you have people whose health insurance went from $800 a month to $2,000 a month, that is a budget buster. That is a life-changing amount of money that is now due each and every month. That is, you talk about changing your lifestyle dramatically, that's what's going to cause it. And that will make people feel very, very poorly about the U.S. economy. That will make people feel very, very poorly about this administration's handling of the economy and economic issues. And I mean, you can look at some of this other, data on this. While most people say that they feel fair or good about their current financial situation, that number plummets when your health premiums double. It's not like you're making this payment once a year. This isn't your property taxes. This is a reoccurring monthly payment. Month after month after month it is due. And so I'm not a fan of subsidies. I understand, and I'm a strong believer that Obamacare has always been and was always going to be a disaster. But I don't know what the alternative is right now. I really don't. Republicans should have had a better plan on this moving forward. They didn't. And now it's something that they have to deal with. And unfortunately, the quick solution, and we know that the quick solution isn't always the best solution, but the quick solution to this is an extension of some of these subsidies. I don't like it. from an economic standpoint, in terms of, federal government spending, not a great solution by any stretch of the imagination. But boy, you talk about people revolting against this administration in November of next year, have their healthcare costs double or triple. I can guarantee you that will be unfortunately a burden that the Republican Party is going to have to bear. And there's not much of any solution to that moving forward. So while Politico and MSNBC say the announcement is coming this week, based on my reading of the president's travel schedule, that seems highly, highly unlikely. Potentially as we head into next week, the first week of December, maybe we'll see some announcement and see some movement on it. But it is going to be a tough spot for a lot of folks over the next couple of weeks as they begin to look at their options and start figuring out what they are going to do as they head into 2026. We'll keep an eye on all the details right here on the Nick Craig Show. Well, that's going to do it for a Tuesday edition. Thanks to the Law Group here in Wilmington for their continued support. You can visit them online at lawgroupnc.com or give them a call at 910-251-6088. The Nick Craig Show streams live weekday mornings, 7 a.m., YouTube, Rumble, X, Facebook, and is available 24/7 wherever you get your podcasts. We're back here tomorrow morning on The Nick Craig Show.